this super category of different faith communities that fits inside of it. That is the story of secularism. And secularism, it's not just a political ideology, it's a totalizing way of looking at the world. And it is the dominant viewpoint that is making up the soup in which all of us swim. So if you imagine a fish in water, and one fish asked the other fish, how's the water today? And the fish said, what water? That's secularism. This is what we swim in, and it's very, very hard and subtle to understand where it came from, how it changed how we define and think about ourselves, our faith, our families, ethics, morality, pretty much everything. So today we want to bring that implicit, hidden thing, which is secularism, and we want to shine a light on it. We want to put it under a microscope, and we want to understand it, how it works, where it came from, how it was imposed upon us, especially as Muslims. And we want to demonstrate what the difference is between the Islamic alternative of what used to exist and the secular society in which we live today. Now, the biggest lie you've ever been told is that people were religious in the past and they couldn't get along and they fought each other, and then secularism came and saved the day, and now nobody fights anymore because they have secularism. This is just a complete lie. First of all, it's a historical lie on multiple counts. We don't have to go very far to look at the global war on terror, to look at World War I and World War II, all of which happened in a secular age that were probably the most brutal conflicts that we've ever seen as a human species. By the way, a great book recommendation, if you're interested in more, would be to read The Myth of Religious Violence by William T. Cavanaugh. He explains that this isn't even an accurate rendering of the past, that people were always at war and fighting because of religion. Even if you were to say, okay, this isn't the world's story, this is just European history, that maybe Europe had their wars of religion as is known in the history books, and so it was a European solution to a European problem. That's getting closer to the truth, but that's not even 100% true, because it's very, very difficult to parse out and separate what people were fighting for. Were they just fighting Catholics versus Protestants in European history? Not really. And William Cavanaugh does a great job in his book of going into the weeds and showing that even supposedly the religious wars after the Reformation were really more complicated than that. You had opportunists on all sides. You have examples of Catholics fighting Catholics and Protestants fighting Protestants. You have examples of Catholics and Protestants making alliances against people of their own supposed religion. So the idea of a violent religious past and a peaceful secular present is a myth, and it's one of the biggest myths that dominates how we think about the world today. Now, that's important because secularism was supposed to be the solution to that problem. And so if there was no problem in the first place, if the world wasn't any more violent and perhaps even was less violent than it is today, and even if we were to agree for a second, hypothetically, that the world was more violent, that it turns out that people weren't actually fighting just about religion, they were fighting about stuff that they continue to fight about today, then secularism needs to account for itself. Where does it come from? Why does it exist? And how did it change our society in the way that we look at everything? And what have we lost?